Hey guys, and welcome to your February 2020 Tarot Creativity Forecasts. My name is Kayleigh Jean, and welcome to my channel. I record these readings for artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, and anybody who is working on their personal growth or their spirituality and self-expression in any way. So if those areas of life are intriguing to you right now, go ahead and keep watching. I also want to give a really quick announcement about the Tarot Self-Therapy group course that we have coming up. I will put all of the information below. This is a course that starts actually this month in February, and all of the information again will be in the link below this video. It's essentially a course that takes you through really forming a deeper personal relationship with your deck from specifically a self-therapeutic perspective. So we're going to be working with the cards in a very gentle way, getting to know the archetypes and exploring the archetypes and their ins and outs very in depth, and also working with self-healing spread work and how you can really use tarot as a self-healing tool. So if you're looking for something to indulge your curiosity in, especially when it comes to tarot and divination or even healing work in general, this course could have a lot for you. And we also do have a group where you can chat with other participants as well. Alright, so that information is below the video. Let's get right into your reading. Okay, Aries, let's get into your February reading. So as I was tuning in for you, I was given an impression of, first I saw a chain, okay? Like a metal chain, and then I saw one of the links kind of, there was almost like a light coming from behind it, and then it sort of snapped or broke away. And so it was like a link in the chain going through some kind of change or transition, and then it wasn't linked anymore with the other chains that it was bonded to. So when I tune in spiritually before a reading, I always kind of ask for kind of clues and metaphors. And to me, as I was really reflecting on this symbolism for you, I feel like it's possible that maybe there is a link in the chain of events, for example, or the chain of command, let's say, in your life, an established pattern of interaction or an established pattern of responsibility, which could be going through some kind of a breakdown or a shift this month. It could also be that you are kind of breaking the mold in some way, because that's another sort of meaning that I take from the concept of a link, you know, something that links things together being broken. But I feel like it's actually a good thing. I feel like sometimes we get into these patterns of interaction, or we get into these patterns of growth, and they work for us for quite some time, and maybe it serves, you know, us evolving into maybe the creator that we're meant to be, or we're putting together skills perhaps in a work environment or a career environment, or by working on a project, for example. And then kind of that chain of command, or that situation that sort of links you to all the other pieces of it, at some point that can almost become, like, in terms of the more negative association that we have with chains, right? Like the sense of being locked in can become the dominant feeling that you have. And so by that time, if there is a change coming, it ends up being something that you're ready for, or something that is allowing more growth and expansion for you. So there could definitely be this theme of like a change or some kind of bond breaking down in your life. And if that's the case, Aries, I think that this is something for you to embrace. I don't feel like you need to be afraid of this at all. I feel like in actuality it is something that can work for you, and it can be like accompanied by the sensation of a new door opening in some way. Now, the other potential way that we could look at this is through, I want to say, like the chain of our ancestry. So, for example, if any of you are involved in shamanic practices, or if you work with family trauma, if you've been kind of recognizing maybe patterns in terms of your family stuff, and like you've been struggling with something, or something has come up out of the blue and you're like, wait a minute, hang on, my parents dealt with this, or one of my parents dealt with this, and actually if you really think about it, maybe one of their parents did too. And so you can kind of start to see there's almost this kind of curse breaking aspect to this idea of the chain being broken. Because if it is a chain of family trauma that you are engaging with, or that you've seen kind of coming up within yourself recently, you might be the one to break that curse, that family curse, so to speak. And I'm not saying that there's literally a curse or anything like that, but more just like what you could describe as, you know, a metaphor for something that people in your ancestry or people generations back have dealt with. And you can be the person to kind of break free from that, and then that sort of ends a cycle of disillusionment and pain, and that's a really beautiful thing. So even if this feels messy, Aries, I think that it's something that you're very much ready for, and I feel like it's something whose time has come, essentially. So let's take a look at your cards, and we'll get some more information specifically about the weeks of February. Okay, this is the After Tarot. I wanted to use this deck because it just felt like it was calling to me for this month's readings. And we're also going to get you your Animal Spirit Oracle cards. Like always, I could never take this out. I feel like this is such a priceless part of our guidance every single month. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got. So we've got wolf, and I'm laughing and I'll tell you why in a minute, and frog. So, so much already is coming through with these cards, but what I want to say is actually that with the wolf energy, there is very much an alive sort of theme of lineage, okay, and family, and there can be like associations with this card with ancestry as well, because wolves travel in packs, right? And so there's this sense with this creature that they travel as a unit, and there is this kind of unbroken and unspoken kind of bond between the wolves in a pack. And so symbolically, and with this card coming through as sort of your path for this month, I do see the potential for some restructuring going on when it comes to either your pack, your wolf pack, whether that's at work, in your career life, or in your personal life. There's definitely a sense of like reorientation or restructuring that is happening, and in a lot of ways I do still see this as like some kind of liberation for you, although it may also very much with this card feel as though you're taking on a lot of responsibility, first of all, and that can be scary. But there's also this sense that I'm getting with this, which isn't necessarily always what I feel with this card, but I'm feeling this almost like this impression of just how much responsibility you're taking for the direction that your life is going on the one hand, but then at the same time there's this darkness surrounding the wolf, so you don't have all of the information, but you're at the same time taking so much responsibility for this journey, so you're really having to almost, it's like driving with like one headlight out or something. It's like you're having to really almost trust your instincts, trust your gut, and not necessarily having the full range of information that you normally would have when you have more of an established chain of command surrounding you, or when you have more of an established chain of, you know, circumstances that are more predictable. I don't necessarily see that being the dominant theme. I think that it's very possible that some of the changes that you're going through are bringing in some sense of like a question mark right now. There's an uncertainty, but at the same time, there's a sense of like really pulling yourself together and wanting to be strong, wanting to be a leader, even if that's just in your own life, even if you're not responsible for a tribe or for, you know, a team or whatever. There is also this really strong sense of like, I want to be like a leader unto myself. Like I want to know myself. So there's that. With the frog card crossing you, this is kind of an obstacle energy. A lot of times this card, this card position can come up to refer to an obstacle, but it can also refer to simply like a lesson that you're learning or something that needs to be faced before you can move on to the next level. And right now what I see is actually rest is important. Because there is this full moon in Leo in February on the 9th, I do feel that it's possible that around the time of this, fiery full moon, it's going to be in your 5th house, which is your house of creativity, expansion, self-expression, but also, children and playfulness. And it's also kind of like a flirty, romantic house as well. I feel like what this frog energy is actually referring to, the kind of rest and rejuvenation that you really need right now, Aries, should have more of like a 5th house quality to it. It doesn't mean that you have to, be working on something creative that you're necessarily going to make into, a product, although that could happen down the road. I feel like it's more about like creativity for creativity's own sake is what's going to replenish you this month. So I want you to really challenge yourself to find those windows of time this month where you can devote, maybe a 3-hour chunk, a really luxurious 3-hour chunk of time or longer to something that you love doing, like painting or listening to music or going to a dance class or, learning to tango or something that just kind of makes you feel alive and that brings you that sense of like joy for joy's sake alone. I think that that's really what's going to rejuvenate you this month. So you gotta have some fun even when you're starting to take on this more kind of serious or sober or sort of leadership oriented role in your own life. You still need to kind of relax that and have a good time as well, Aries, so don't forget about that. Let's take a look at your tarot cards. We've got King of Pentacles, the Hierophant, wow, 6 of Swords, and 3 of Swords, with the Fool, the 6 of Wands, the 8 of Swords, and the 6 of Cups. Interesting. Okay, so in this first row, I am seeing something that feels quite specific, and I'm just going to share it exactly as I'm seeing it here, but know that this energy can play out in a number of ways because these are just general readings. These energies could be playing out kind of within you, or they could be playing out with, different people than the ones I'm describing, but the situation or the core sort of emotional experience that you're having may be very similar or may turn out to be very similar. So what I'm getting with the King of Pentacles and the Hierophant in the beginning of February, this is the first week of the month, and there's a big kind of push towards doing things the right way, like when we look at these cards, which is kind of a heavy concept in my opinion, especially if you're a creative person, if you're a very creative, dynamic Aries. This can be a little bit of a challenging energy to interact with because you don't necessarily want to just find the tried and true method that everybody else is doing and then just stick with that. You kind of want to be like a maverick about things. You want to try things that are different. You want to ask for more from life. And that's one of, for me, the core things that I notice in like people with strong Aries signatures in their charts is that they want to see innovation, essentially. And there's like a thirst for personal growth and for self-improvement and improvement also of like external circumstances for other people as well. So you might be struggling in the beginning of the month with a person or situation that kind of wants you to sort of stay the same, or that wants to kind of do things like in the corporate, established manner. And that can be a little bit disheartening, or it can be kind of disappointing. There is a really strong Taurus signature with these cards because for me, I associate the Kings with fixed energy, and obviously fixed Earth is Taurus. We have this big bull right here, so it definitely speaks to Taurus as well. Also, the Hierophant card is ruled by the astrological sign of Taurus. So there's really, really strong Taurus energy here, whether that's a Taurian individual in your life who is kind of exerting this type of influence, or creating that kind of aura around you, or it could be like a Taurian aspect, of someone that you know, or a situation that is sort of Taurian, for example, like the corporate thing that I brought up. But if you're not involved in a corporation or anything like that, if that's not your career and that's not kind of what you're doing, it could be that internally within you, you could be realizing like ways that you are pressuring yourself to do things the same way that you've always done them, or parts of yourself that are like a little bit more risk averse, but at the same time do have something beneficial like to be brought to the table, but you're kind of trying to figure out how you can sort of work with these aspects or that energy and still be a creative, dynamic individual. And I'm not certain that this energy is going to play out the way that you necessarily want it to, at least at first, Aries, because what follows is the Six of Swords, and then we have the Three of Swords. So I kind of get this impression when I'm looking at these cards. It's almost like you're dealing with like somebody who's kind of either stubborn, or a situation that is stubborn, or an aspect of yourself or life that is stubborn. And then you're kind of like making the realization of, okay, I don't have control over this, or this situation isn't going to change, and so I need to kind of go my own way here. And that can be a decision that is made with a little bit of disappointment, but I do like the way that the Three of Swords is illustrated in the After Tarot, because we aren't seeing kind of like the harshest blow here. What we're seeing is these swords, they've pierced the heart already and they're falling away, and now the heart is sort of bandaged up. So it's beginning, the healing process, but still definitely, in a wounded place or feeling vulnerable. So what I'm getting for you, Aries, is that, but then the energy does shift. So here's the thing I want to say, is that with this shift in energy going from the Fool to the Six of Wands to, the Eight of Swords and the Six of Cups, it's like, okay, and this is a really liberating thing once I sort of realized this, Aries, in my own personal life. So I'm getting a little subjective here, but this is a very liberating thing. And what it really is the deeper, like at the depths of your kind of soul or spirit or whatever you believe you are, accepting that people that are difficult in your life, or that situations that are difficult in your life, are not going to change. Not every situation's like this, because I personally believe that people can change. But if you are involved with a person or a situation that has proven time and time again that they're either incapable of it, like because that's just how they are, their makeup is, that's how they were raised, that's how their personality is, that's how their capacity is, in life. Or if it's a situation, the situation just has so much pressure on it. It's so highly pressurized. It's so intensely kind of pushed into being a certain way, that you kind of have to just take a step back and recognize what you're working with here, and that it may not really be worth pushing against it anymore. It may not really be worth wanting, even thinking, even like hoping or dreaming that this situation is going to change. It sounds kind of like a bleak realization to have, because maybe it's somebody that you really care about and appreciate. For example, a spouse, or, something where you're like, I really, really would love for my life to be able to just continue going forward, and this person to just be able to grow, or this person to be able to just respond in a more mature way, or respond in a way that is in alignment with the growth and expansion that I'm going through. But if you're not getting that signal that the person is capable or wants to change, it can be heartbreaking at first to accept, just accept the person completely as they are. And if they never change, then you're just absolutely going to accept that wholeheartedly. or like, you know, walk away from it, like deciding whether or not you can work with the situation as it stands if it doesn't change one tiny bit, versus staying in the situation and trying to, in subtle ways, push against it or trying to kind of nudge it to move along. Sometimes, like, things don't want to be nudged. Sometimes people, situations don't want to be nudged, Aries. And so I feel like there's this moment of, for some of you with these cards, there's this moment of, all right, like, this isn't going to change. I understand that. I accept that. I'm not going to harbor resentment, but it does hurt a little bit. It does leave a little bit of a wound. It's not something that you can't heal over time, or that you can't, you know, learn from, but it is, there's a sting to it. So that is kind of what I'm seeing. But the beautiful thing about this spread is actually that it really clearly illustrates the liberation that comes from that, because then you have the Fool. So it's like, yes, you may feel as though you've just stepped out into the unknown, and there may be all of this uncertainty, like we see in this picture. There's all this uncertainty about what's going on, and you are trusting your instincts with the little dog here. At the same time, there's this like complete change in the color scheme of these cards, you know? We go from like we go from like very, very fixed, stubborn energy to acceptance, right, of what cannot be shifted, which does lead to some disappointment. But then we move into this like, whoa, like my feet aren't even on the ground here. Like I feel like I'm dangling, but I'm smelling the flowers. So it's like I'm enjoying life, even though I'm enjoying life even in spite of the lack of stability now that I used to rely on maybe. It's like, whoa, I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out with it. And then it's going into the Six of Wands, which is a victory. It's a sense of, wow, I made the right decision. I made the right choice. I know I did. And you're getting back kind of on your feet again, or feeling triumphant somehow. Like this could be leaving a job or whatever, just as an example, but fill in the blank with like your own situation. It could be leaving a job, relationship, etc. And then realizing, like, holy shit, my life is like totally different and I feel like I'm floating. And then you get this like email from somebody saying they want to have a job interview with you because they saw your application and they're really interested in hiring you. So it's like something better is potentially opening up, but you had to kind of make that leap of faith, or you had to kind of make that sacrifice to get to that point. So that could be going on like somewhere, give or take, around the third week of February. And then the last part of the month, we have Eight of Swords and Six of Cups. So I'm actually seeing this as like a helper energy coming through for you, Aries, at the end of the month. So if you're feeling like you don't have a lot of guidance to go off of from the external world, hopefully this reading helps you a little bit. But throughout the month of February, because you are going out into the unknown in such a big way, you may feel like you don't really have a lot of, you know, support coming to you. I feel like by the end of the month, somebody's kind of able to kind of help you look at things in a different way. And because it's the Six of Cups, it could be somebody from your past, or it could be a child or a younger person, or it could be somebody that you've known for quite a long time with the Six of Cups. But it's like a very affectionate energy, and it's somebody who can kind of help you recognize the things that you're blind to, which is one of the best things that any mentor or any friend can do for us, is really help us see things that we're missing, because it's impossible from our subjective reality moment to moment to see all of our options all of the time, right? That's why it's so useful to get that, you know, other perspective from time to time. So that's your reading. I hope this is helpful to you, Aries. Please let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts that you want to share. I think it's going to be a very transformative time, but with that full moon in the 5th for you, I think it's going to be fun as well. I think there are some ways that you can enjoy this energy, just like with the Fool card as well. So I also see some potential victories or some things coming through for you that give you kind of proof that you're on the right track, and that could be, in the last 2 weeks of the month. So, don't worry if you don't feel that in the first couple weeks. There could be some things that you're just kind of moving through and accepting before those new doors start to open. Okay, Aries, thank you so much for watching. Again, I'll put all the information for the Tarot Self-Therapy course below in case you want to join us, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!